policing on the inside, we have to speak of our profession for the noble intentions that it has: honor, integrity, and courage, and all of the good things that are associated with serving the people, being a public servant, because we have taken out the public servant in this job. When you heard them say in the past, you're going to join the military, people would say, I'm going to join the service. Well, that's what this is. It's a public service, domestically serving.
Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now. Hey, Black and Blue fam, how you doing? This is Dale here from the Black and Blue Podcast, where we celebrate diversity in U.S. law enforcement. Thank you for joining the show here today. I appreciate each and every last one of you. Hey, if you like this kind of content, make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button right down here on my YouTube channel. And if you listen to me on your favorite podcast platform, make sure you rate the Black and Blue Podcast 5 stars. And hey, make sure you check me out on any one of my social media pages for even more content. You can find me everywhere at Black and Blue US. So as you can tell, today I'm not in my usual setup. I'm out in the field, and I got a real good one for you here today. I am coming to you live from the Prince George's County headquarters out here in Maryland, and I got a real special guest for you. So everybody, without further ado, let me bring on Chief Malik Aziz. Let's give it up. I got through that all right.
You're good.
I'm trying. How you doing, Chief? Good morning.
I'm doing well. Fantastic.
All right.
No complaints.
Thank you for coming on the show.
I appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, you got a beautiful building here. I hear it's remodeled or what's going on here?
Yeah, they did a total renovation, remodeling, about 18 months, 24 months ago. So they put us in this beautiful building. I think it speaks well to the caliber of men and women who serve the citizens of Prince George's County really well. You need a place that represents your brand.
Yes, yeah, I love it. Can I stay here? Are you hiring? No.
We are hired.
Okay.
Police.org.
Okay. But for you users out there, you viewers out there, I'm getting towards the end of my career, but if things are different, I would definitely come out here. I appreciate
You
that.
can always join us. You got this inkling in you. It's burning you deep down in your soul.
For real.
We're ready for you. Come on.
All right. I'm thinking about it, Chief.
Give us a little time to serve the citizens.
I'm thinking about it, Chief. So Prince George's County, tell everybody a little bit about Prince George's County.
A beautiful county right next door to D.C., considered D.C. Metro, even though it's Maryland. And it's about 1 million people here with a very high population and demographics of blacks and a mixture of Latinos and whites, a very diverse county, a very progressive county. Of course, the economic base and situation that comes with DC Metro, it's a very progressive place. And the police department, at its height, is about 1,800 officers when fully loaded, with another 300 civilians. And so Prince George's County is like the place inside of Maryland, right next door, in what you call a DMV. Everybody always says the DMV. In this particular case, the M is for Maryland, where Prince George's County is located. And in this DC, Maryland, Virginia area, it makes it so dynamic that you can cross over into a different state or jurisdiction readily, easy. Sometime, in a matter of seconds, you're in 3 different states. So it's very unique, I can say, from anything that I've ever seen.
Absolutely. We noticed that just coming in off the plane, and you know, 1 minute we were at the airport in D.C., and the next minute, you know, you could be in Virginia, the next minute you can be in Maryland. So, yeah, we enjoyed it. It's
might
really
confuse
pretty out
you.
here too.
It really is. I think one of the things that I noticed when I got here, you can take things for granted if you see it every day, but one thing that was very noticeable here are the trees.
Yes.
I mean, it's was listed at one point as the #1 state for trees, in the nation, and it's noticeable everywhere you go. It's just beautiful, tall trees everywhere.
Yeah.
So, very beautiful place.
All right. And I was talking to one of your staff earlier about, you know, the kind of the makeup or the organization of county police. Can you kind of describe what that is? Because out in California, we don't have county police. We just have county sheriffs. But what's the kind of the dynamic of a county police
A
department?
little bit, I would operate just like in whatever sheriff's department you're familiar with. Well, I take it that would be Los Angeles Sheriff's Office. Very similar to what they do, except the police, we do that here. And we don't control a jail aspect like the sheriffs would, but we have a jurisdiction that spans across the municipals and townships across Prince George's County, which are in higher number. I think it may fluctuate on any given year for who's a township or who's incorporated or whatnot, but it can get up 24, 27, 30 different cities that we are traversing, or townships that we are traversing to provide a police service to. So many people understand the sheriff's concept and the police concept here, county police concept here. It dominates the regions in Maryland and Virginia. And that's how it is constructed, where the police will provide the police service to municipalities and townships or unincorporated parts, or just those who don't have their own police force, and we provide that service to them. So that
same as back in Cali,
yeah. And so
now it's not a elected position though, is it?
No, it's not an elected position. It's appointed by a county executive. The county, this county is comprised of a county executive, a chief administrative officer, and the county executive is like I would equate it to a cross between a mayor and a city manager almost, with power, directing, guidance, and things of that nature, who reports to an 11-person council. And in the county itself, who operates the county, is the chief administrative officer, and then a deputy chief administrative officer over public safety, which I fall under as a police chief. Inside, so it's very similar to which names are different, but this is the construction out here on the eastern Atlantic seaboard. It's it's like that. But if that gives it any context for the viewers and listeners, that the county executive is very powerful, and they would be similar to a mayor and a really powerful city manager.
Gotcha. So you kind of talked about how large your department is. What brought you to Prince George's County?
Prince George's County, I was always familiar with Prince George's County. I heard over the years, probably 22, 23 years ago, people were saying, "Oh, it's Prince George's County," and then I bumped into a few people, and over the years, I would see this white shirt that I'm wearing. I was like, "Well, who wears a white shirt in law enforcement?" Right. So I was always, whenever I came here, they was like, "Hey, let me take you to Prince George's County." Even if I went next door, became more familiar when the DC sniper incidents were happening, and Chief Moose was heading that up, and he was right next door in Montgomery County, which had a light was, Prince George's County received a lot of light. Some of those things happened here in this whole region, but it's people just say DC, so they don't say it's Prince George's County or Montgomery County. So I was always familiar with it, and the opportunity knocked to actually, pursue the chief's job here. Which I did. So I was already familiar with its august history, its venerated history, a seat of economic black wealth in a predominantly black county. It fluctuates, but even then it was number one or number two over the years in black wealth. Owning the most zip codes in the top 15 for economic vibrancy.
Really?
And so yes, so most people would say, oh, it's Atlanta.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah.
Or it's some other place. But usually I get that in this Atlanta, but it's right here in this region from the Prince George's County. Right next door in the Charles County, the whole region. Mm-hmm. And so I knew about those things, and I wanted to be a part of it. And I pursued the job, and our county executive, who's an awesome leader, Miss Angela also Brooks, she selected me to serve, as the police chief. So most of the people that I knew had moved on. They retired and left the area, but I was very familiar with Prince George's County and what it brings to the national police scene. This police department, at one point, police departments are fluctuating with staffing, but at one point was the 24th largest police department in the nation. And that's considering that it is said about 80% of departments have 12 people or less, than having to be at number 24 out of about 19,000 police departments. Right. That'll tell you what a vast and august police department Prince George's County is. It's up there with the major cities, in the United States.
Yes. Now, are you originally from the area, or?
No, I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, okay.
Yeah, the Big DZ. That's 5-time.
The Big DZ.
The Big DZ.
Yeah, well, I don't have any good
champion.
thoughts right now, because I told you we got stuck in Dallas for about 15 hours yesterday. So I don't have any good thoughts about Dallas.
I told you that's a great place to get stuck. You're in high town. With the barbecue and Tex-Mex, and, and the heat, and so all of that is down in Dallas. But I stole that from your West Coast guy from Ice Cube. He calls it the Big DZ. He says I'm in the Big DZ.
Okay, so you know a little bit about Cube. Okay,
yeah, just a little bit.
All right. So did you do your law enforcement career down there? Or?
I did almost 30 years with Dallas Police Department.
Okay.
A couple of years before that with the Dallas Sheriff's Office, and that what brought me over 3 decades of experience in operations in a police capacity or jail capacity. I brought that experience here after 3 decades to Prince George's County.
All right, so born and raised in Texas.
Dallas, Texas.
I don't hear that accent. You must have lost it since you've been here.
Well, that could be a whole reasoning behind why you don't hear the accent. But I consider myself that's all Dallas, Texas, right
so
here.
Cowboy or
Dallas Cowboys.
You're a Cowboy, okay.
Yeah, I mean, what else could it be?
It could be Niners. I mean, we can talk about the Niners, but
yeah, I don't really want to talk about the Niners. You guys stole the Super Bowl from us. The catch kind of traumatizes me still. But I had some good friends who played for him who I went to school with.
Okay.
Over the years, or grew up in my neighborhood. Michael Carter, who played nose guard. Chet Brooks we played in Carter High School. He was ahead of me on Carter High School football team, but we played in the years. And Michael Crabtree.
Okay, yeah.
So a few of those guys are Dallas Carter.
You got mixed loyalties, is what you're saying.
That's Dallas Carter products. So, whenever they're playing, if they're not playing the Cowboys, I have to go for them because they're Dallas Carter. You seen it, Friday Night Lights, 30 for 30. Carter High, the movie.
Okay, I've heard of that school before.
Yeah.
Well, in Texas, I mean, high school football is like king out there, right?
It's king, and it might be God if you let it be.
Right.
It's
a different animal.
Texas football, it dominates the landscape. From East Texas to West Texas, North and South, football is king.
Yes.
Friday Night Lights is very serious in Dallas, Texas.
We were out there back in September of last year for one of my cousin's weddings, and just driving the freeways, we'd see like high school billboards for players on high school billboards for football players. And wow, they take the high school football seriously out here.
It's very serious. I don't think anything is more serious than football. In Texas. So, you have a few things, but when you start listing them, it's up there.
Now, did you play?
Yeah, I played it.
Okay.
I could play a little bit.
You play a little bit?
I could play a little bit.
What position did you play?
Well, I played backfield, running back, slot, and I played linebacker and free safety. So I kind of played both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
You know, did punt return, kick return. I was pretty vicious.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I'm a nice guy now.
And how'd that work out for your knees now, though?
It wasn't good for the knees. It wasn't good for the body at all. It's funny. I was just yesterday. I was looking, and then I looked, and I said I had a turf burn right here, and I was thinking about something. I told somebody one time. They said, "Hey, what happened to you there?" And I was like, "That's a turf burn." They didn't know what a turf burn was. But that, playing football is on turf is unforgiving.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather play on grass. We played on turf in games. But it was, it was not so good for the body.
Right.
I can understand how guys play for so many years and they get banged up.
Yep.
It's a bruising sport. Very fun, but very, very bruising.
Okay. But you've obviously moved on. What brought you into law enforcement?
Well, I wasn't really interested in law enforcement when I came on. In my neighborhood, which is from West Dallas, projects, but to Oak Cliff. Oak Cliff is a neighborhood in Dallas. It's the largest neighborhood in Dallas, populating at least a third now. Used to be half of its population, and in my neighborhood, you didn't run to police. In like similar neighborhoods, you saw the police, you went the other way, and that's just what I did. The stories of police they take you to jail. They're gonna do something to you. They might beat you. They might plant a gun on you. They might put something on you. It might not be any good. Even if those stories were not true, they definitely circulated and made its way down to young black youth such as myself. So I went the other way. So I didn't have any inkling to join the police force. I didn't dislike the police, but I wasn't like, trying to have a conversation with the police. And I tell people this story from time to time because the transition, it probably was always there for me to end up in law enforcement. But one of my good friends, we used to play together. And all of us used to run in a circle, just hanging out. Back in those days, it was hang out at the local, school park, play some basketball, some baseball, or throw up football, or tackle football, whatever we wanted to play. But one day, motorcycle comes rolling up, and he's giving it the gas, and we see him, and all the rest of us take out running except one. And then we hear him saying, "Hey, daddy, it's my daddy." And it was like, his daddy's a police officer?
Right.
Because we didn't know, and he never talked about it. It wasn't a big deal. And that was like my first really introduction to a cop that I respected and thought was nice, Mr. Christian, who's the late Mr. Christian, who's just, he's deceased. But he comes up and he's got the shiny boots. And he's got the helmet and the sunglasses, and a very, cool guy,
huh?
handsome guy. All the ladies would go crazy over him, and he was stopped from that point on. We wouldn't run from him, and he was kind of the neighborhood guy. When he come down, and my mother would say, "Hey, you seen Mr. Christian?" Because he always wanted to look out for the boys in the neighborhood. And then, but that still didn't push me into law enforcement. And then I moved forward. And I'm dabbling around in different things, taking a turn, doing different things, and then I ended up at the sheriff's office, mainly because my then wife said, "Hey, you better get a job that pays you consistently. You got a baby on the way," and so I ended up at the sheriff's office. And there it was guys saying, "Hey, you've been to college, you got all these things, what are you doing, right? You can go join the police force." And it was like, well, some things happened there. Policing wasn't always so kind internally or receptive, and being a black male inside some of those systems during that time that had been, the landscape was attractive and dominated by other people who were non-black. And so I decided to fill out an application for Dallas Police. I did that. A few months later, I was hired. But I remember when I got hired, and I went to my mother's house, and I said, "Hey, I got some news to tell you." And she was like, "What?" And you know how they go. And then I said, "Well, I joined the force." And she was like, "What force?"
And I said, what other force could it be? It's
Star Force, yeah.
Star Force, yeah, right.
The dark side of the force.
So she's just looking at me, and I never will forget because it's icy look. And I said, the police force. And she's all, son, what did you go do that
Really?
for? They're going to kill you. And she was dead serious. And I said, well, it's too late now. I'll be going. And a couple of years later, my mother became my biggest supporter because it was something, because you didn't see a lot of blacks in law enforcement, and trickled out through a major police force in neighborhoods. You just didn't see it. And now I was somebody they could talk to. Neighbors, they had me. One of my closest, like family to us, had became a police officer several years before that. Well, one of the first, females, black females in the Dallas Police Department, and she had had an impact also. But again, that didn't drive me to law enforcement. It was like, why are they doing that over there? But she went through the same transition I did. She went to the sheriff's office and then ended up in the police force. So I just ended up in policing. And it wasn't something that if I was playing cops and robbers, I probably was playing the robber. If I wasn't playing the Lone Ranger or something, I wasn't playing something that was, nobody wanted to be the cop. And so it just wasn't attractive for me at all. And in the transition I see now, over 3 decades later, it's an amazing journey to go from that kid. That's why I see kids out here in the neighborhood. It's so important for us to have a conversation, to have representation, for them to see us in another way, because that's the same way that I saw Mr. Christian when I look back at it. I don't know if I would have looked at a cop in any other way if he had not been that representation.
Right. And it's good to have that representation, just to see someone in your position, someone even in my position in law enforcement, for other people to see, coming up, other kids, you saw Mr. Christian like that. I didn't have anyone in my neighborhood coming up, but you said playing cops and robbers. We used to put the old TV show SWAT. I know they got a remake. Right. It's funny because me and all my buddies, we used to play SWAT, and there was one black dude on that team, and none of us wanted to be the black dude. You know what I mean? And it's because we didn't see that. We didn't think it was really attainable.
It said you can't be what you can't see.
Right.
And you have to see it. And that's really one of the most important aspects of law enforcement. That's why wearing this uniform with pride, wearing this patch and a brand and representing policing, that it is bigger than myself. And the challenges that are ahead for us, these major challenges, if I'm not that representation right now, then who is? And so, just looking back at it, you can make a journey and never see, it's like going to playing in a championship game. Most people would, it's great getting there and they want to win, but what they will say is, it was the journey,
It was the journey.
And the journey I look back on, I don't think if things would have happened very differently, I don't know if I would be sitting in this seat, right now, or if I had just made a decision to accept the sheriff's office, where would I be?
Right.
Or if I had just made a decision to go on another route and pursue another career, what would have changed, or what lives have I touched over the decades now that would have been, very different for me. So it was for a reason that I'm here, and the reason why I ended up in law enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously made a good decision. You're here now. So
I'm here now. I'm in the wonderful, greatest, county, Prince George's County. I don't think I could have ended up in a better place. Many more places I could have ended up. I don't think any are better than Prince George's County at this day and time, in 2022, with all the challenges that we have seen and all of the obstacles and challenges that are ahead. That couldn't be a better place to challenge the perception and offer a very different reality than now and being here.
Facts. Yep. And we were talking about earlier how diverse Prince George's County is, as far as blacks and Latinos and all that. And what's that kind of look like in your department? Is it kind of mirror the community?
Well, it's getting there. It has been lacking in some areas that the population demographics of black officers does not equate to what is the demographics for our county. But we are making progress, and we are seeing those things slowly change as we want to be representative of our county. You want to have a type of department that reflects or mirrors the county and the citizenry that we're serving. And we're striving to get there with the best and brightest and most qualified people that we can find. And we are moving there, but not just to bring people in the door, to equal or mirror or reflect the county demographics, but to make sure that they're represented at all ranks. From officer first class, police officers first class, corporals, sergeants, lieutenants, captains, majors. That right there is the more difficult task, because in order to do that, 50% can be on you to bring people in the door, to get them here, and that is very challenging. And then there are competitive tests and things like that. Well, that's the other side that people have to actually compete to move up inside of the ranks.
Right.
And you can't control that until it gets to the appointed ranks. And then you can look at the best, the brightest, the demographics, education, and there's unlimited categories you can add to make a competitive, qualified, competent, credible command staff. But that part in between, there's a lot of responsibility, there's a lot of accountability that lies upon people who need to compete. But it's my duty with my team to attempt to bring people in the door. But with 19,000 police departments and people having a perception that there's a national policing force, which is not true, anything that happens miles away will affect you in your recruiting effort. And we have been affected by things that have been outside of us. Not that we haven't had our own problems in Prince George's County, but you don't want to be affected by something that happens in Minnesota or New York or Ohio. You would like those things, if you're going to have them at all, to be in your backyard so that you can deal with them effectively. So that's compounding our interests. And we are struggling, in a major struggle, to bring people through the door. So we can't change anything if people are unwilling to actually be a part of the change, be a part of the solution.
Right.
We can always state the problem. A teacher, told me many years ago, when I was in school and we were in algebra, and she said, you're spending too much time on the problem. You know what the problem is, work on the solution.
Okay.
And I think I applied that to every single thing that I do, that I can hit the problems all day. Now, what's the solution? Give me some solutions, because that involves some work. That involves some thinking. That involves a pattern, a trend, a plan, an action. Something has to occur.
Right.
But just stating the problem, that's easy. Anybody can do that. So
now trying to the problem of getting more minorities in the door. How do we solve that?
Well, I don't think it's any. Well, if we can solve it right now, we'll be billionaires most likely.
No doubt.
We would be rich and probably wouldn't be sitting here. I think I don't know what island I would be on helping you resolve these problems. I think it's so many solutions to it, but one is when there's a perception and there's a reality, and then there's the reality of the perception, which is very true and real. We have to combat that. We have to stand up. We have to be in the face of that. We have to change the paradigm of people who interact with us. That's why community policing is so important. That's why community engagement is so important. It's why instilling a sense, a very real sense, actual sense of procedural justice to treat people with dignity and respect, and give people a voice in the process. All of those things are important for breaking down barriers and moving forward, and having a real understanding and being truth, speaking the truth and being truthful to the residents in which we serve, is that we are not the panacea for all problems that are existing in the community. We are not the total solution to what plagues your community or some things that have been going on for decades. We can be a very real solution in helping you in a partnership that is 50-50 to resolving those issues, which means in order to help us, then two things have to occur. Okay. One is policing on the inside. We have to speak of our profession for the noble intentions that it has, honor, integrity, and courage, and all of the good things that are associated with serving the people, being a public servant. Right. Because we have taken out the public servant in this job. When you heard them say in the past, you're going to join the military, people would say, I'm going to join the service.
Join the service.
Well, that's what this is. It's a public service, domestically serving. And that service, the police who are already here inside the profession, 900,000 police officers, we have to speak with one voice to say, join this noble profession, and we believe in these things, the ethical, being moral and upright and honest and all those things. That's first. Mm-hmm. And on the outside, we have to have a citizenry that says it's okay to serve. It's okay to be in the police service. Yeah. They have to say it. Yeah. They have to believe it. Right. And we have to find common ground, just like we're talking here. We have to get this close, have a conversation, and say that policing is a viable profession. And people who have the right mindset to serve the residents. And you have to say policing is a career that you can actually help change things. Those two things have to occur among the many other things that are occurring, because people are not sending their children to law enforcement. They're not saying go be police officers.
Exactly.
Police officers are not saying go be police officers.
Right, that part right there. I mean, because that's a tough road to hoe, because nowadays, people don't, in all walks, not just in minorities, we got the, Caucasians that don't want to be in police. Maybe it's just a millennial, generational type of thing. They have different approaches to what they feel a career should be, and maybe we need to evolve with the times. What do you think about that?
Well, I think we have, one good thing about policing is that we have always evolved and adapted, not without a fight, not without struggle, not without a challenge, but we will, as I say, you talk while you walk, and that's part of the process with policing, to have these two things that, the police officers struggle with. And if you help me resolve this, then we can go in the right direction. And that is what I say about police is, the two things that they hate most, and that's things to change and then things to stay the same. Right. So at the very same time, they hate both of them, which prevents us from having to move forward. But the evolution that we are evolving with the mindset that we are looking back there, and we see the evolution, but we discount it. And I'll say these things for evolutionary purposes. What did your police force, if you go back and research it, wherever you were living, how did it look at the time? Who was it? Who made it up? And you'll give me a demographics. Right. And usually that will be, it was white male, they were 5'7", they served in the military, they didn't have any tattoos, nobody in their family was ever arrested. I mean, it was a whole long laundry list that qualified you to be a police officer. And anybody else, including if you could be a white male, and if you was not a right height, you could not get hired. And even then, now look at it now. Look at your police forces now, your police departments now, and look how diverse they are, and look how they reflect. So that's adapting, that's evolution. And you look at, we used to walk, then we rode horses. We had cars. We didn't have radios in cars. And you had MDCs, MDTs in cars. You have a radio on your hip. It was a time where you didn't have that. You had to climb a telephone pole, literally, to make a call. Evolution, adaptability.
Yes.
And then comes, television. Now you're seeing things, and television is God. It's the social media of that day. If Walter Cronkite said it, it was true.
Right.
And your favorite newscaster said it. There was no challenging. They had already done the research.
Not so much nowadays.
Not so much nowadays.
Yeah.
So look at the evolution that has occurred. Now we're in social media, TikTok revolution. Steve Jobs put it in your hand that, you could get anything you want. You could go to the, people would deliver. I used to deliver newspapers, and you had to wait for the
Newspaper,
the news.
what's that?
Yeah, newspaper. You don't read a newspaper anymore.
Yeah.
So I deliver a newspaper, and people would literally wait to get the news of yesterday, or the freshest news in the morning from a morning and evening delivery. And nowadays, you take there's no phone books thrown on your porch anymore for you to, have, some kind of privacy that your name was listed in your phone number and your address. And now you're looking at these things. It's all on social media. Your whole life is there before you. And this is how we talk to each other now. We look at this and we say, make your TikTok video and you can reach them. Literally, people are in the same room, texting each other, face to face. And our evolution has to be to get in the middle of that dynamic and actually disrupt it, engage it, challenge it, and then convert that to some useful format in which we can deliver it back to the people that we're serving.
Okay.
Now that right there is a major challenge. It's like climbing the highest mountain, but we have to do it. We have to engage people on the new terms, and the new terms is not TV. For that, or it's a singular platform where they go. It's like my daughter would say, Facebook is for old people.
I know.
In the Facebook, they're in the Snapchat and TikTok.
Yeah, and TikTok.
And Instagram is slowly going that way. They want fast. I give an example. When Michael Brown incident happened, 2014. My daughter says, she's just a teenager at the time, and she says, "Hey, Dad, what y'all did to Mike Brown is just not right."
Y'all did.
And remember, at the time I'm a deputy chief of police in Dallas, Texas, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Yeah, that just wasn't right. What you did, Dad. Tell me. I mean, why did you have to do it?" I was like, "What happened? What happened to him?" I knew what happened. I mean, the totality of the stories.
Doing that dialogue.
Yeah. So she says, well, you just put him on the ground and executed him right there in broad daylight. And I was like, no, that didn't happen. I said, where did you get this news from? And she says this, I don't say it now, I don't want to, somebody think I'm targeting some social media platform.
Yeah.
She says, I got it from there. And I was like, that's not viable news. You can't get it from the blogs like that. And so I had to educate her. This is what occurred. This is not true, because people are saying this happened here. Now you can judge for yourself. But that's where we are. The first to get it out.
What, Chief? That's a double-edged sword, because George Floyd was because of social media, right? I mean, it was captured live.
Yeah, live.
Yeah,
live.
It was live. Yeah.
Live.
And Philando Castile was another one that was live. All these things are live.
That one was static because there was no video, of that. That's very different. George Floyd. I say this when people talk about George Floyd, a tragedy, unnecessary, a murder.
Yep.
For all. There's nothing that you can't get around it for what it actually is. Now, I've talked to many police, probably hundreds, over time about George Floyd. I haven't heard one police officer say, you know what, he got what he deserved, or that wasn't a murder. He wasn't doing anything. George Floyd died because of this. I haven't heard one say that. Now, I have heard citizens in different places, in different demographics, say, he got what he deserved. Yeah. That should have happened to him. leave the police alone, let them go. I haven't heard that from police officers. So it's always interesting that, a person videotaped a murder. They live streamed a murder. They recorded it at the hands of a police officer. And the justice system took its proper course.
Yes.
There was no dispute over the actions of the people who were in charge saying that was wrong.
Right.
So that was this isn't your 50-50, your split second decision, your eyes see one thing, your body does something else. George Floyd was very clear. I often cite it as the worst example for policing that we can actually, do anything with, because it isn't something that we already understand that.
Yeah.
True police officers, really don't like those kind of things.
Right.
So I haven't seen it out of informal surveys.
Now that case was good because, like you just said, the justice system took its course, and it was a favorable decision on everybody's part because it was clear cut. But you have these other cases where the public really doesn't trust that the outcome will be in their favor, even if it is on video, clear cut from what they see. The departments will exonerate them, or the courts will exonerate the officers, even though what they think they see on the video is another thing.
Yeah, and that right, it depends on the context of what you're looking at. I've seen videos in my experience that did not tell the whole story of what occurred. I've also seen things where citizens have come out to defend people, and police officers said, I don't know what they're looking at. That is unacceptable for what we're doing. And it depends on really what the angle is. When I look at like court proceedings, unless you have a camera in the court and you listen to all evidence and everything that is presented, that is gotten, once it gets to that point, it's out of the police hands. The police don't control every aspect of our criminal justice system, so it's out of our hands. But once it get to that point, reading the newspapers or different blogs or whatever, if you don't read multiple sources or multiple angles or multiple points of view, if you are not sitting there, you'll get a very different take, or you'll get the take that you desire to get. But if you sit there and you go through everything, you're the best person to say, I don't know if that part was true.
Right.
I don't know if that was right. Most people don't do that. But and we're in the days of reality TV. It wouldn't shock me if one day every news proceeding is on TV, every court proceeding is on TV. It wouldn't shock me. But I don't try to, I try to be in the balanced middle to give, all parties a chance, because I have seen some 50-50 things that says, no, that was right and that is proper, or this happened. And you can't excuse this behavior and get this behavior right here. There's been numerous times that we have seen that, and I've been on national platforms to voice this same opinion that I'm voicing now. And whoever sometimes screams the loudest, they get heard the most. But that doesn't mean a person who is in equilibrium doesn't have something meaningful to offer to the conversation about what should be procedural or what is practiced.
Yes.
And I haven't seen it, in a lot of cases. This is what a desire would be, that, policing sometimes, in all instances of force, I haven't seen force be used in a way that people say that was beautiful. That was great.
No.
It doesn't exist.
No.
So you handcuff a person and somebody's screaming that it's too tight and their hands don't go back that far, and you hurt them and their blood is cut off, and they're screaming and somebody's saying, loosen the cuff. What are you doing to him?
Yep.
You hit a person with a baton. See how that looks.
Yep.
That has, depending on where you come from, that'll take some people back to 1950s and 60s.
Exactly.
You put somebody in some defensive tactic move on the ground and they hit the ground pretty tough. Does anybody saying what a beautiful takedown the police officers did? They're not saying these things. And God forbid you shoot them. Or what about a taser? I don't see someone getting electric, conducting, device getting hit with that normally called the taser or some kind of stun, and they're saying, man, look at that. That's pretty nice. It does not exist in the way police officers are used force. What does exist though, in this game, in this massive game of how we perceive things, is that brutal? Because policing, as ugly as those things can be, we have to decide, is it brutal?
Yes.
Is that police brutality? Did you use force unnecessarily? Did you exceed the amount of force that you should have given? And was it malicious, or was it a training problem? We have to answer those questions first before we say they shouldn't have done a person like this, you know? And I would say, considering the first thing you want to hear from, the first person you want to hear from, if you see something that doesn't sound right or look right, it is the police chief. It is the spokesman for the city or the county in which you represent. It is not anybody else, because I know people will run to the local union or association representative and get their take on it and say, see what the police said? Well, the official voice of the police is the police chief and higher. And so if you say, I disagree with that, and it doesn't look right, and we're going to take a hard look at that and investigate that, well, everyone deserves due process. You don't give that up when you join the police force.
No, you don't.
So there is a fine line for saying those things. But there are some things that are clear that you'll say, and I've heard that even when you brought up George Floyd. Chief Arredondo was really clear once he got the facts what that was. It wasn't any wavering, let me see, what'll happen. It was like, hey, that was wrong. You don't need a long, drawn out investigation, but there are some places that have rights, internal rights that are given to them by law. And then there's the Constitution. And then there are the same things that would be afforded to any civilian. They have to play out. And we shouldn't let prevailing, aggression or attitudes sway us from that. What we expect is justice. But just go back to what I first said. Ask yourself those questions. Is that brutal? And was it unnecessary?
When you spoke about earlier about the just process, you don't give that up just because you become a police officer. One thing I've heard is when there's an incident, a use of force incident that's controversial, is the media, whether it's the media or it's the police, on the suspect side or the citizen side, their back history is always brought up. Well, he's been convicted this many times. He's been and had contacts with police this many times. But when it's a use of force incident and the police is a suspect and officer is a suspect, that same thing isn't brought up. The chiefs will say no rush to judgment. The investigation has to take its course. And they see these two different sides and these two dichotomies here. How do we rectify that? Because the police, the public is saying it's not the same playing field. It's not transparent.
I think I kind of spoke to this earlier when I talked about there not being national standards in policing. There's no national police force. The founding fathers of this country saw fit not to have a national police force. They could have for various reasons. But since there are no national standards, we literally go on 19,000 policies about what that should be. My take on it is that the record should be released. Even here in my very own department here in Prince George's County, who operates under a very different, set of procedures, being a collective, bargaining state versus a right to work state, which is very different. So most people don't think that when they think policing. But if you're in a state that it can be governed by CBAs, or collective bargaining agreements, then that becomes part of the process in which a negotiation has taken place. So it wouldn't matter what a police chief said if the legislative body of the state has given those rights. to a county or a local entity to say you don't have to release those records, doesn't matter what a police chief would say. Police chief can say all day, I want to release those records and I think we should. But that law says no. Now you go to some other state and a right to work that's not governed by any kind of median confer agreement or collective bargaining agreement by association with that city or county. The police chief can release whatever records that he sees fit.
Yep.
He can say, now where I'm from, in Dallas, Texas, my record was open every day, and you can go get it right now. Mm-hmm. It was my internal affairs record was open for the world to see. As a public servant, my record was open. My discipline history and my award history, my commendation history,
yep.
Same record. It was there. And it's very different in places that are governed in a different way. And now I think that confuses people.
Right.
And we do a disservice because we don't educate people enough, or we're not trusted when we deliver you that message. Because now, even here, and things have changed in here with the reform law. But if we say the law prohibits me from giving that record out, a police chief could do that if he wanted to. He probably won't be employed very long after that,
right.
Or you'll be sued, or you'll cost the county a lot of money, or the city a lot of money. It just doesn't pan out. I know what people would desire and what they want, but the first place to change those things in states that are governed like that is the legislative body.
Right.
It is not to fight out in front of the police station
Yep.
and say, I'm gonna protest against you until you give me those records.
Yep.
You're in the wrong place. It's not going to happen because you have a duty and a responsibility to the governing document, which the people elected the people to give that right.
Right. Yep.
So, it's so many ways.
There's a process.
There's a process.
There's a process.
And so I look at things in that way. But again, the failure is an understanding that it's 900,000 police. It's almost 19,000 police departments.
Yep.
It's different states with different governing institutions that have given rights.
So let me ask you, because you brought that up a number of times in the interview, 19,000 different departments, all these different 900,000 officers. Do you think maybe there should be something in place where there's a national, at least a standard in training and qualifications and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, I do. I think it should be. I think that the governing bodies of august or venerated organizations like International Association of Chiefs of Police, major cities chiefs associations, Police Executive Research Forum, there's probably 100 organizations, but about 6 or 7 core organizations that should be involved in saying these are standards. This is what you should be doing.
Right.
And I think the federal government has a part to play in that too, from the Department of Justice to give. I think 21st Century Policing, the task force done a lot of that work with the recommendations. They done a lot of that. Adopting them, some of those cost money, but they laid the foundation for that to become these are standards. And now we have templates all over the place. We have policies all over the place. And we need to say these are best policies. These are best practices or promising practices. And you should adopt this without the federal government coming in, putting you under a consent decree, forcing you to adopt something that you can ready and willingly adopt now that doesn't cost you any capital.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost you anything except doing the right thing.
Doing the right
Sometimes doing the right thing is just free. It doesn't cost you any money.
Yep, that part.
And so yes, I do. I don't know. I could go to great lengths to explain that, but I agree with it. I think we should have some things should be in a national policy or national direction, and that is what should be challenged when good, righteous people are looking to see what was actually done. That they should look towards that and say, was national standards and best practices followed? And then ask yourself again, is it a training issue or is it malicious?
Yeah. Yep.
Agreed. Important thing to ask.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. All right. So earlier you were talking about social media being the big thing with with our youth today, and departments' needs of getting into it. And back there, I see behind you, all the platforms that you guys are on. You got the platform. You got the TikTok and Instagram and the old folks Facebook and all that. you do anything on TikTok?
I'm not a big. I have TikTok.
You don't get out there and do the dances?
No. See, I've never seen that end well for a police chief.
Right.
I joke with people about this. They was like, hey, we had National Night Out a couple weeks ago, and some people was like, hey, you gonna dance? You go. Every time I've seen a police chief dance here, you can't win. And here's the problem with that. Not that you can't dance, try, have some fun, but there's always this group of people are saying, why is the police chief dancing when there's violent crime happening over here? Why is this a murder happening over here? I got robbed last week. Yep. Somebody stole my purse 10 years ago. And what you just don't, these are very, even though it can be true it's not really targeted at, it's targeted at the uniform and the position. So I would rather not, go down that road and start thinking that if I make a great TikTok video, it's going to go viral and somebody's going to join the police department because the police chief can dance. Well, it just doesn't work that way in reality.
Well, then how do you guys use TikTok in your department?
We're trying to
all the social media.
I think we're doing a really great job of how we use Facebook for what it is, and Instagram, and posting on Twitter. I think we probably do Twitter better than most, from posting blogs and information, real time.
Information.
Those are real things. We're still navigating our way through the TikTok and the Snapchat and seeing how can we best use that. I think the reason why there has been, it's fun. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of departments meeting the challenges and all those things. It has to have something, breaking down barriers, has a viral video caused you not to have a protest, has a viral video of dancing and doing something, in a comical sense, has that had a great impact on what the true engagement should be? I think what we're doing, and it doesn't seem like a lot of fun, but when we engage the youth, when we're out there at the basketball or agility camps or leadership camps, or we're having a real talk with kids and we're having a real interaction, to me, those are the most meaningful social media interactions that you can have that will actually have a greater result for positive community engagement than I line up 50 officers out here and we get in sync and do some dance. It's and I'm not knocking any police department that wants to do that, because we have some very talented people who can get together and do those things. I'm saying that's not the end all be all to it. We have to have more substance in a community that we are talking and engaging with each other to have a better understanding of what type of police community relationships we're going to have and what kind of community, safer, better, positive environment for adults to live and work, and for our children to play, and for all of us to be entertained. And if somebody can bridge that gap between me for having that kind of platform and doing that with it versus having a platform. We just got through talking to some some young people the other day, some youth the other day, and it was real talk, our second real talk conversation, and we interacting. But that won't bode well. But that interaction right there is going to have decades of influence on young people. And no one will remember the dance that we had, last week. So I'm looking and it's a delicate balance to find what is meaningful for us as a profession to actually do the things that people want us to do, and that is they want us to have an engagement. They want to talk to them. The young kids told me before, they said, we want to talk to police, but we don't know how to approach police. Like, what do we say? Now, and if I make a video like that, that would be interesting to me. Like, this is how you go up and talk to a police officer. might not get any hits.
Yep.
But the kids who are interested in saying, I've been wanting to talk to a police officer, what are some ice-breaking questions I can ask him? Because most people don't know what to ask. They ask you about the gun you carry.
Yeah. You know, that just made me think of something. I spoke to somebody a while ago, and they were talking about, you know, videos like that, talking about, you know, how do you approach police. But he and his department also put out videos on how to interact during enforcement stops.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what are you supposed to do, what you should do, best practices.
Right.
And we talked about when the fight is not on the side of the street or not in front of the police station,
Right.
but in court. You know, let the officer, if you think something
it's,
wrong is happening.
It's funny you should say that, because that's part of the talk with the youth, the real talk. The second half of that engagement is to switch sides and do role play.
Okay.
And then talk about how to actually engage with a law enforcement officer at this point in time and in an enforcement stop. You know, years ago when I was the national chair of the National Black Police Association, we ran a platform called What to Do When Stopped by the Police. It's been copied all over the place and by given different names, but and my good friend DeLacy Davis, and in conjunction with the NBPA and Noble, came up with that, you know, a couple of decades ago, maybe 30 years ago, and it has been one of the most receptive programs across the nation that every other organization has adopted it and put it in their name and did that. But what we do here is the same thing. We go through role play, we talk about the interaction, how could it have been different? And the young people play a role. They are the police. And so now you get a bunch of, you know, police acting rowdy, you know, talking loud and, you know, doing different things, and they trying to control them, you know, the best way. So what you just said is exactly what we're trying to do. I think the biggest challenge for us is how do we translate that to something consumable for the people? How can they consume it in 30 seconds or less? Because that is about the attention span of what's going on here. If we don't give people something in a small dose really quickly, they gone.
Yep.
Just like that. They're scrolling through and they see it and they say, no interest. On to the next one. Police, get that out of here. We ain't got time for that.
Now these videos aren't to be confused with the ones like Chris Rock did a few years ago. You seen those? Remember that one?
Yeah, I remember those. Those are hilarious, I must say. You know, for my generation, thought those were like, you know, pretty crazy. You know, so it's those are some of the funniest videos. I know they still making their rounds now. It's you know, how I came up. I mean, I'm sure you did too. We got to talk. You know, the talk always was in my house. It was my mother would be like, "Hey, you're leaving? Hey, remember this now. The police stop you. Say yes, sir. Say no, sir. Don't talk back. Tell them where you're going. Hey, if you were driving, hey, keep your hands on the steering wheel. Don't you move. You tell them when you're moving. Say yes, sir. Say, hey, don't have one other person in the car with you. You can't have 3 or 4 people in the car with you." I mean, this was like the normal day. You couldn't leave a house without the talk happening because you knew what was going on out there. And it was.
Let me ask you though: is that sad that we had to have those talks?
It's always. But
is that,
how sad has it been?
Is that talk in every community?
Yeah, it's not. Well, you know, I've had only one person tell me that their dad gave them the talk who was not black. And did you get the same talk that I received?
Right.
He swear he did, but I'll go with it that he did. But there's still only one person out of. I mean, it's in black communities, black households. That was the talk because there's a real narrative that preceded that, and very real, no matter what. And so you didn't want to, you know, get in the path of that, and so you did exactly what you were supposed to do, what your parents told you to do, and everybody who I know and I grew up with or who grew up in black communities was given the talk. Everybody, and it's a normal thing in black communities. So, you know, one goal is to one day eliminate parents having to say that to young children. And I can tell you this, I've received calls over the years from all around the United States when I wore a different hat, and you know, same hat as a deputy chief, but as the chairman, they would call me and say, "Thank you so much. thank you. I heard you on NPR. I heard you on, another national news outlet. And they would say, thank you. That benefited me. I talked to my son. Or the pastors would call me and says, that program you guys put on, that really helped us. And it helped me with my kids. So it was meaningful for us to say, just do this and survive an encounter, even though it can be positive. Because we make literally millions of traffic stops. We have millions of engagements per year. There have been some estimates that say we make over 375 million contacts per year. By any measurable standard, the negative interactions would be less than 0.01% or so when you look at the things that are considered to be negative, and that is a very serious incident, what happened between police and a citizen. And some of those have been, when the citizens have been aggressors, others have been unarmed people, mostly unarmed black individuals. But when you look at the amount of contacts that happen, they've been overwhelmingly positive. So there must be something else that is happening. That engagement, we have to talk about the high engagements that are tense, that are in places that fill in the pulse of a neighborhood. That's true. Every neighborhood, you talked about Philando Castile earlier, and I remember sitting in my office, that day, and the national news is coming on, and I'm looking at, Philando Castile, and like many others, we gauge it, and it's the disturbing part of it was that you saw that. And I had a believability in it to say what I heard the girlfriend say, because I have my own believability, meter. And then I said, it's hot. It's getting hot. The atmosphere is hot. Because every neighborhood you have to have your finger on the pulse. And I called one of the lieutenants in and I said, hey, tell the guys to be safe. Tell the guys to be safe. It's going to be rough. Tell them watch themselves when they're out eating. Watch their back, and watch what's happening out there. The situations are rising, and people are really frustrated now. And July 7th, 2016 happened in Dallas, Texas, where 5 officers were killed. Yeah. 5 officers were killed. That's the same deal. The pulse, the temperatures were rising. And when temperatures rise, and you don't have your finger on the pulse, that becomes one more ingredient into the recipe for disaster. And that's what you have. Yeah. You have, whenever we miss the finger on the pulse of a community, whenever we're not having dialogue with the right people, whenever we're not building or making deposits into for a base that's equitable, whenever we're not engaging in community engagement, whenever we're not practicing procedural justice, whenever our use of force, complaints are rising, all these things are just ingredients into a recipe for disaster. And it's easy to find yourself into a very precarious situation, or I would say a quagmire. Right. And it's going to be problematic for you as a police chief and your police department. I think I'm confident that Prince George's County is on the track to doing those things the right way, and that's difficult, but the right way.
Yep. And it sounds like you're on the right track, and you're being a big part of that.
Yeah, well, we're trying to get there. I don't think, with the men and women who serve the residents of Prince George's County, nothing happens without them. Some of these systems are very frustrating. The cycles, the frustration, the limited resources, revolving door, community complaints, all the concerns. But with all that in their face, the ones who have stayed and endured this most challenging time in law enforcement, in Prince George's County being no exception, we wouldn't be moving forward without the hard work of those men and women. They're everything. Leadership is one thing, but the putting your feet on the ground, your boots on the ground, and making meaningful engagements and doing things the right way is what propels us into a very professional police department. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the men and women who are serving too.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Love it. Love it. All right, Chief, I appreciate you coming on to the show and, engaging in this dialogue and this conversation with me. But we're not done yet. Remember, I told you we're going to have some some questions for you
You're
real
not
quick.
finished with me
No,
yet?
I'm not done. Nah. Just rapid fire questions. I call this my black and blue round. So
Are you going to be participating in rapid fire?
I'm going to ask the questions and you real quick. So you out here in Maryland now. In the DMV, as we call
DMV.
it, as you call it. So you got to give up your Dallas, your Cowboys loyalty here and tell me Ravens or Commanders. Formerly the Skins, right?
I guess since you put me on the spot, that's the ugliest one. Commanders.
Commanders. Oh,
I'm in
the same division, though.
But the stadium is right here in my county.
Okay, well,
FedEx Stadium is right here.
All right. That was a no-brainer there. Bucket list place you'd like to visit?
Bali.
Bali. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I'd love to go there sometime too. You ever been in a place like that?
No.
No. All right. Okay.
Prince George's County.
All right. I'm sure you'll get on that. Person that you'd like to meet that's still alive today?
Oh, that's a tough one. I met a lot of people.
How about dead? Anyone that's no longer with us?
Oh, dead. Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost met him twice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't link up though, huh?
Yeah. Well, got canceled one time, and then the next time he got sick, a few months later, we couldn't meet with him because health wasn't there. They got, it was going to get rescheduled, and a few months later, he was gone.
Oh wow.
So I missed that opportunity.
Okay. All right. So other being named Chief, what's the biggest career accomplishment you've had?
Being the director of the Dallas Police Athletic Activities League.
Okay.
I know some people are going to say, he's not going to say national chair of the NBPA. Yeah, I had a pleasure serving 110,000, predominantly black law enforcement officers, but affecting those kids meant the world to me.
Wow. Yep. That's a great organization right there. Most influential person in your career to you?
The most influential person in my career was there's probably two people, but the most influential for me was David Kunkel, my former chief, and Floyd Simpson, the late chief and good friend and mentor.
All right. Favorite guilty pleasure?
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
Yep.
Favorite flavor?
I got 3.
Not 31.
My favorite though is probably strawberry. But even though I love butter pecan and chocolate and vanilla.
And right now is the weather for it.
I'm an ice cream. I hate somebody's gonna get me for this one. I know it.
If you hadn't been a cop, I know we kind of talked about that. What do you think you'd be doing?
I've probably been the world's greatest DJ, producer.
Okay.
Something in music.
So
It probably would have been something in music.
All right.
It would have been something in music.
We had to talk about that off the air. Definitely.
Yeah.
Last movie you saw?
Shawshank Redemption.
What? Really?
I mean, what you mean? The last movie at the
In
show
the
or the
theater,
last movie in the theater?
In the theater.
I hadn't been to the theater in a while. I don't know.
Wow.
I hadn't been to the theater in 2 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
since
the pandemic.
Since the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, but I watch stuff on the streaming platforms.
Definitely. Okay.
Yeah.
Since you're talking about music, who's your favorite music artist or group?
My favorite artist is probably hip hop. Is probably Jay-Z. It's probably my favorite.
Okay.
It's he watch this. Rock Nation need to come and find me. But that's my favorite.
Okay. All right.
Hip hop is my favorite, so I'll just go with hip hop.
Man, I love to hear that. See, and those are conversations that people need to hear. Mm-hmm. Is that people in the uniform and people that all the way up with the bars on their collars and stars on their collars like hip hop too. And we like the same sort of things that everyone else likes.
Yeah.
Too.
I'm always testing somebody with some hip hop knowledge somewhere. It's a few people around me. They think they know everything about hip hop. I have to put them through a test.
No names there.
I ain't gonna say no names. I'm not gonna say any names.
No names
they
in the
probably
room,
in this room looking though. But they probably in this room looking.
Yeah.
I'm sure they are looking.
And then last you talked about, now you're wearing this white shirt and who wears white shirts. How you keep it clean? How you keep those white
We
shirts
don't.
clean? You don't?
Yeah, you change it every day. It's always, I find myself eating, like this.
Right.
I got Tide pens all over the place. Trying to, make sure that they right. Being my assistant chief over here, we always talking. My staff, my special assistant, they always talking about I'm gonna get my shirt dirty or something. I will.
Yeah.
So it's like I had so many shirts. I had to change.
Now is it
my
just
shirt
admin that wears them
every
or?
day? The lieutenants and above
Okay.
wear white shirts.
Okay.
It's the command positions.
Okay.
So people can distinguish, who you are as a
Got it.
supervisor. So you put on these white
Yeah, it'd
shirts.
be
We have
kinda-
another uniform, but these are the primary
That'd be
uniforms.
kind of tough being out on patrol in a white shirt.
You're not gonna wear this white shirt on in patrol. This wouldn't work in Dallas, Texas, by
No.
the way. You need a shirt every 2 or 3 hours in
Yep.
the summer. But it's I love the uniform. I think it's very professional. But it's hard to keep clean. So you have to literally change your shirt, every day. There's no you're not gonna get along.
Yep.
No longevity in this shirt at all.
Appreciate it. Yep.
So
I
but
know
I
that.
do that's just funny because we always talk about these shirts.
Yep.
And I made fun of these shirts for years.
Now you in 'em.
I tell my good friend here in Atlanta, he watched this. He used to be on this department, and I used to, say, man, who wears a white shirt? That's just so funny to me. Now I'm in the white shirt
Now
as
you
the
in the
chief
white
of
shirt,
police.
yep.
So, but
Looks
it's,
good on you,
it's,
though.
it's Prince George. Oh, thank you. I
Looks
appreciate
good.
that.
All right.
See, everybody love that right there.
Yeah.
It's I think. I say, for, people who thank you so much, for, having a dialogue with me and being down to earth. But again, I reiterate, Prince George's County is a great place for people to come and work. We're hiring, for those who want to make a change for
How
PG
do they
Police.
get in touch with you guys?
PGpolice.org.
Okay.
We have bonuses. You can get $15,000 if you come here. And so we have a very progressive, retirement plan, and then we giving, your bonus, money to come get hired here. You can catch us on any of our platforms, PG News, and at PG News, PGPD News, and so it's. If they look that up, they can find us anywhere. I think that they would be very happy to come join a police department that is going in the right direction. So having a meaningful conversation to see, just who we are, to join a group of professional men and women who are down to earth, who mothers and fathers, and,
Yep.
and family people, and just working and trying to make a living in a great place in a great part of the United States.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Chief, I appreciate you coming on and sharing all this with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Had a good time with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
That's what's up. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Chief Aziz over here at Prince George's County, Maryland Police Department. If you guys enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did, hey, make sure you click that like button on my YouTube channel or rate it 5 stars on whatever podcast platform you're listening to me on right now. This is a great conversation, and Chief Aziz, I really appreciate you allowing us into this beautiful facility to have a conversation with you. So again, if you guys liked it, hey, click the like button, and I'll be back in 2 short weeks with another conversation just like this one. But y'all know the phrase. Till then, stay black and blue. My name is Dale. I'll holla at you. Peace.
This has been a Maitre D Entertainment presentation.